All right, ladies and gentlemen, in order to be successful for today's instruction, you need to take out your notebook, and we are moving. We have a lot of content. I think the president has a lot of stuff going on. So we are in week 6. Keep in mind you have a very short vocab list this week. You only have a vocab quiz tomorrow. You do not have one on Wednesday. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So you do have a test on Thursday, of course, 25 questions, all multiple choice. This content this week is all about the president, which I'm just going to say, I've learned a lot. Okay, here we go. So, top of your notes, week 6, the president. Now, the first heading is going to be, I'm trying to figure out how I want, divided government. Okay, your first heading is divided government. Okay, there are 3 terms you need to know, a divided government and a unified government. So let's start with divided. Divided is when one party controls the White House and another controls Congress. Okay, so a divided government. Thank you very much, Lucy. When one party controls the Congress and the other one controls the White House. Divided governments make presidents weak. I would put a big star on that one. Divided president. Why? Makes logical sense. Why do divided governments make presidents weak? Matthew? Kind of, but give me a little more clarity to that. Which one has more power, legislative or executive? Why does the legislative branch have a little bit more power?
Because they vote on them.
Because they are the voice of the... Yes, okay. So the legislative branch has more power than the executive branch. And because of that, the executive branch always is going to lose. Not always, but like most of the time. A unified government is when the White House and Congress are all aligned. Okay? Now, how often does this happen? No, it happens every like 10, 15 years. When Bill Clinton was in office, he had a Democrat-based legislator as well. Didn't work out great for him because he still got impeached. Yeah. But, we'll see. Technically, Joe Biden right now has a unified government, but how's that unified government treating him? He has gotten a couple big legislative wins in the last month and a half, so that is a big positive, and his approval rating has gone up. Okay, so, it wasn't as terrible as it was about a month ago. However, it's all because of small margins that there is really no clear, definitive majority, which is why Joe Biden has been super successful in passing things through House. Now, if you have a divided government, it creates gridlock. You need to know that. A divided government creates gridlock. For instance, every single one of us has seen these expletive bumper stickers on cars in Tampa, yes? Some are pro-Biden, or some are anti-Biden, and some are like anti-Trump and all that stuff, these crazy expletive ones. Have you seen some? I feel like there's one that like every inch of its back is like completely covered, and I feel like I casually go to the grocery store with the same person all the time because I always see the same car. Anyway, gridlock is the inability of government to act because of rival parties. When Donald Trump was in office, the Democrats called themselves the party of objection. Okay, they literally said they weren't going to pass anything Trump wanted. Okay, now that Biden is in power, the Republicans have sworn to pass nothing to let him fail. Okay, so is it just one party against? Is it just one party against everybody? No, it's both sides to it. But gridlock is that slowing down and nothing gets done. Today in 2022, would we say Congress is gridlocked?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty heated between the two parties. It's getting, like I said, last month and a half we've gotten more done, but not a ton. Olivia. That's what, Olivia. Yes, in a wonderful world. Don't we want our politicians doing what we want them to do? Yes, because we do find that us, as regular Americans, agree more in the middle than our politicians would let us to believe. Because they get more attention if they're more partisan. Can we agree? Okay, controversial. Like DeSantis last week sent a bunch of migrants to Massachusetts. Yes, that's very partisan. It made him very popular. People really, really liked it. Is that really the best interest of all of us? That's up for you to decide, but that's a big political theater. Can we agree? Okay, so with those types of things, may not be the best side, but do we do it on both sides? That's an example of Republicans, but the Democrats do it as well. Don't forget, yes.
So when this happens in unified, is it because of the one party's
Yeah.
not one's has control?
You don't see gridlock in a unified because all of the Congress is all in agreement. They're all passing through. It's under, because it's not. They can produce gridlock if people are opposing, but it's mostly in divided governments. Does that make sense? If the Republicans don't have control, they're going to slow down things. Same thing with Democrats. They kind of go back and forth. You can see it in a united house, which is what we see during Bill Clinton's administration. He had gridlock even though he controlled both. But we mostly see it in divided houses. Perfect. All right. Evolution. Now, founders' concerns. Okay, so you need to know that the powers of the presidents are pretty limited in the Constitution because our founders didn't really have a concept of what a president would be like. When they came up with the idea of a president, they were very concerned it could easily become a monarchy, which is the opposite of what they wanted. So the founders were very, very hesitant about giving too much power to the executive branch because they didn't want a monarchy. So what we're going to see is that we have very limited inherent powers. Inherent powers means specifically stated in the Constitution. Okay? They're very limited because they were afraid of what a president could do. So, it is very important that our founders really only give the president power of foreign diplomacy. That is the very clear, explicit, and independent power of the executive is foreign. Is your foreign diplomacy. Why? Why? It makes sense. If it's one person, isn't that easier to have a conversation with one person than a whole legislative branch? That shit would be crazy. So that's why. So it is really important that you know our founders had a really hard time of seeing the vision of what a president would be. Most of our presidential expectations come from precedent. You need to know that, not president, precedent. P-R-E-S-E-D-E-N-T. What does precedent mean? We usually talk about in Supreme Court cases, but we're talking about it in a little different context. Lucas?
Previous cases.
Previous, or in this case, previous president. So whatever the previous presidents have done, that becomes the expectation of the next president. Perfect example, of course, is going to be George Washington with a precedent of 2 terms, total of 8 years, but we'll get to it. Are based on precedent. Like, as in doing what previous presidents have done, taking over the powers previous presidents have done. Yes, Pierce?
I said the president is explicitly given the power of
Foreign diplomacy. Right now, Joe Biden, I think he's on his way home from England, but this morning he was at the Queen's funeral, and he sat next to the Prime Minister of England, and they were sitting there chatting it up before the Queen arrived. Did anyone wake up to watch the Queen's funeral?
No.
Okay. Well, it was on in my house until 4:30. Yes, ma'am.
So this is based on precedent?
It's precedent, yeah. The previous, because there's not too many rules written into the Constitution. Okay, Federalist 70. It is absolutely going to be on your test. There's actually 2 questions about Federalist 70. Now, Federalist 70, honestly, if you wanted to copy down this whole little slide, it will be the worst thing that's ever happened to you, and you know I never tell you to do that. Federalist 70 is written by Alexander Hamilton. It is really talking about that the executive branch needs to be one person. That one person has to have energy, which is such an awkward way to phrase it, but here we are. You have to know the term energy when you discuss Federalist 70. That is the identifying component of Federalist 70. When we talk about energy, it's really the ability to make decisions quickly in opposition to the legislative branch, which is specifically slow. Now, it also talks about how one person becomes corrupt, then it would be easy to remove one person instead of doing what the anti-federalists want, which is more of a council. Now, the biggest thing about Federalist 70 is it's centralizing the power of the presidency to make it more effective. The more power a president has at its core, the more effective a president will be. However, it's checks and balances that keep that president from becoming a monarch. So, Federalist 70, two arguments, one about energy, one about only having one power. The second thing you really need to know about it is it's all about centralizing the president's power to make him more effective. Because at the end of the day, the judicial branch can't make any big decisions. They can only say if something's constitutional or not. The legislative branch just moves so slowly, trying to get all these people to come to a decision, while the executive, thank you, is necessary for. If you need to go, you need to go. Okay. We good? Perfect. Okay. Terms in office is your next heading. Terms in office. Okay. Historically, ladies and gentlemen, we use the foundation of Washington's precedent of, we all know a president serves 4 years, yes? Then you have to go for re-election. After re-election, if you get elected again, then you get 4 more years. It is Washington who stepped down after 8 years of being president. His first election is by the Second Continental Congress. You're good. College resources all the way in the far corner of the school. Okay, so 4 terms, 4 years, 2 terms, total of 8 years. However, it is FDR who ran for 3, and you do need to know that. What worldwide event was happening during FDR's term? What was happening? What do you got, Matt? Adam? World War II. So we were in the middle of World War II, so he decided to run for a 3rd. Now, it was not very popular, huh?
You got 4.
He did, good. Yeah, because he ran for 3rd and said, like 12. Okay, so he is going to be in office. Now, after he dies in office, he dies about a month before the war in Europe ends, we are going to begin this whole process. Now, the reason why FDR is special, A, is because it's World War II, and I would make a note of that. In your essays, you'll be writing for this class, noting those types of historical evidences will bolster your scores. Second thing you need to know, after his death, they're going to pass the 22nd Amendment. So prior to this, there was no amendment. After FDR's death, the amendment gets passed.
World War II.
World War II is when he was running. Okay, so it is going to be after his death. Okay, now you need to know that Jackson is going to be one of the most influential presidents. Now, what is going on during Andrew Jackson? Thumbs up or thumbs down in regard historically. When we look back on Jackson, thumbs up or thumbs down? Yeah, okay, so 2022 is not a good lens to look back on Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was very popular in his time period when he got elected and lost a lot of favor while he was in office. What are some of the things that he did that are very controversial in 2022? Ben?
Trail of Tears.
Trail of Tears. He's going to push off all the Native Americans out of the southeast and push them westward, and he is purposely going to distribute, not him specifically, but he gives the order, to purposely distribute blankets with smallpox flakes of skin inside the blankets to infect as many natives as possible so they die. Good look, bad look. Not a great look. He's also going to be in charge of tons of expansion, and a lot of our Native Americans are going to be completely destroyed under his reign. He's also going to make a lot of controversial decisions while in office as well. Now, one of the reasons why we are talking about him right now is he, and you need to know this, is going to expand the powers of the president. You need to know that. He is going to expand the powers of the president by making it more of a management role. He doesn't come up with new laws and sit there crafting legislation. He literally sits there and kicks down things he doesn't like, and things he does like he lets pass. He is essentially managing the other two branches. He shapes the modern president. Now, the president isn't in charge of the United States, they're managing the United States. So he is the foundation of what we would call the modern president. Both positive and negative come from that. Okay, so you need to know that Jackson is going to be the first real president to come in and start managing the whole office. He's the first person to really use vetoes. You also need to know that. And he's the foundation of what we call the modern day president. Now, during his time, he was very popular. Does anyone know any of the weird fun facts about Jackson? We've only said, huh?
Yeah, shot a bunch of times.
Yeah, I mean, he is a general, so he got shot a bunch. What do you got him?
Killed someone in the White House wall.
Yeah, he did shoot someone in, like, full day. 300 people watched. He also had the craziest inauguration that raged for 2.5 weeks and burnt down half of D.C.
Was he punished for shooting?
No, it's Andrew Jackson.
You have to agree to
He was
it.
the first to
Yeah, it was a duel.
You
It was
agree.
Andrew Jackson. It was all those things. Yeah, man. Are you an A push yet? No, you're a sophomore, yeah? You'll learn all about Andrew Jackson and all of his weird things. Okay, so now post Andrew Jackson is your next heading. Post Andrew Jackson, Congress reasserts its dominance. Now, all three branches are checks and balances of each other, yes? However, which branch has, by the constitutional design, more power? Legislative, because the legislative branch is the voice of the people, so it should carry more weight. So after Jackson dies, Congress asserts itself with more dominance. Okay? How does it do it? Okay? It is going to make the presidency a more submissive branch to the legislative. How does it do it? By limiting influence.
More submissive.
More submissive. Okay, because Jackson showed the power of the executive branch could be, and Congress was not going to have it. So they're going to make it more submissive and try to pull power from them by limiting how much access it had to the media, and as well as trying to get more of Congress members out publicly. So Congress traditionally had this whole view, if you're part of Congress, you're part of something bigger, not the individual. Today in 2022, are Congress members individuals or part of a collective? They all have their own Instagram pages. They're all posting all their own crazy stuff. Yes, posting their own narratives and stuff like that, which is both a positive and a negative. I think we can agree. Okay? So, you need to know that national emergencies, put a star, you need this, national emergencies make presidents more powerful. Can we agree? Okay? Prior to 9/11, George W. was meh. He wasn't super popular. Wasn't completely vilified. He was meh. Okay? He was mocked a lot because he did make some major gaffes. But he wasn't completely hated. 9/11 happened and he became the great unifier of the United States, and he was put on this really incredible platform because after 9/11 he did pull the whole country together, showed up in 9/11, made this incredible speech, did the whole thing, and was a great unifier during that conflict. Okay? So, Congress, national emergencies make presidents more power. And put a big star, maybe even twice. Presidents are responsible for foreign policy. Okay? Did you see after the Bucks football game last night that 60 Minutes did an interview with Joe Biden? Did you see it? There are multiple points of controversy in his thing, in his interview. One of them is that Joe Biden said if China invades Taiwan, the United States will go to war. Guess what no president has ever said? Yes. Because you're not supposed to. Because that means we have to go to war if China invades Taiwan. Now, Taiwan has a lot of impact and a ton of things, and we don't have time to get into why Taiwan is such a huge deal that it makes sense World War III would be declared if China invades Taiwan. But that's one of those things you don't get to say out loud as a U.S. president. Yes. Yes. China is looking to see how the world deals with Ukraine and Russia because Taiwan has huge, Taiwan is important because it makes microchips, okay? It is the world's largest producer by a crazy amount that make microchips. So all of our weapons grade, anything, all has microchips, yes? All of those microchips come from? So if China takes over Taiwan, who controls the entire infrastructure of future technology? That is why we cannot let Taiwan fall too. Because we, as Americans, have allowed this technology to leave our borders, and now we're completely and utterly relying on Taiwan. So if China takes over Taiwan, they're immediately going to cut us, which immediately changes our stability in the world. Yes? Huge implications. The reason why it's such a big deal is because with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, seeing how the world was acting, keep in mind Russia and China are besties. China was literally waiting in to see how the world was going to respond to decide whether to invade Taiwan. And they could. They keep practicing and all this stuff. And if they go invade Taiwan, we will go to war, which will be for World War III. It's a big deal. It's huge. It's everything. It's all the technology, the future of the world. Anyway, that's not on this week's test, is it? Here we go. So, powers of the president. Here we go. Delegated powers, ladies and gentlemen, are the ones that are specifically stated in the Constitution. What article of the Constitution creates the executive branch? 2. Article 2. So, the power of the president is to sign or veto legislation. Commander of the armed forces. Okay? Control a cabinet. Convene or adjourn Congress, which they don't really use that often. Grant and receive pardons, which they absolutely do right before they leave office. And receive ambassadors. That's your foreign diplomacy. Those are the major powers, and you do need to know them. So, when we talk about Commander of the Armed Forces, that means Joe Biden is the head of all 6 branches, right? There used to be 5, but now we have Space Force. Isn't it 6 or is it 7?
Space Force.
Yeah, Space Force is like real. It's like a real thing. It's not like a joke. It's a real branch, yeah. It's a legit real branch. Well, they're doing all the telecommunication. It's not like they're waiting for like green men to come down and like invade. They're here making sure that our satellites and all of our technology in the skies are protected, and all of our GPS. You do know the whole world benefits from the U.S. technology of GPS? We created it. Our military is the one who provides it for free for every single person on the planet. That information has to be protected as in provided to everyone, and that's part of the stuff Space Force does. Yeah, it's like a real general and has a cute little outfit. He did an interview at 60 Minutes about what they do. It was really interesting. It was pretty cool. Anyway, receive pardons. Pardons means you're forgiven for whatever crime you did. Every president does them. It's always done right before they leave office because sometimes they're pretty controversial. My last period was very excited. Trump pardoned Kodiak Black. So that's praise be, thank God. that happened. I don't even know. Like I know of the name, but I don't. Didn't he kill a guy or something? I don't know. Whatever. Every president does it, and every president, it's usually kind of like a weird, shitty, kind of weird list. Obama, he had the most for the longest time because he forgave a bunch of people who were in jail for marijuana. Well, that was part of his thing of like trying to open up the jails and stuff like that. Trump did a ton. He did a couple here and there. Biden hasn't done any yet because it's by the end of their first term. What do you got?
Do you hear about the thing that's going on in
What is going on in Illinois?
it's like they were calling it like a purge law or something like that.
What the hell is this, Emily?
It's this thing that I don't know like the full extent of it, but certain like because they're trying to like get people out of.
Well, yeah, we are the most incarcerated country in the world, by the way.
They're like letting certain people out, if they have like a 24 to 48 hour like they can do like a list of things. It's really
I've heard about that.
I have not heard about this.
I think you can do some crimes and not.
yeah, it's like second-degree murder.
Oh my god, that seems a little harsh. That seems a little harsh that I could casually kill you and I wouldn't go to jail. Well, like first degree murder is like, oh, I'm going to kill you and I kill you.
I think you can do robbery under certain. Yeah, I think you can do robbery.
Steal from those places.
It's like you're gonna do.
Okay, how about we do some research so then we can have a coherent conversation about this, yes? Instead of saying like, oh, we can casually kill people. So that's, huh? Illinois does have people. We're moving forward, Emily. You've sidetracked us with purge or whatever. Okay, so you don't need to write this down because you just did. Commander of the Armed Forces, including your Space Force. Okay, grant reprieves, pardons, ambassadors. Okay, now they have the right to appoint officials. Okay, if they're going to the cabinet, you need to know this, Kinsley. I know you're pumped about it. I can just see it across your face. This is so fascinating for you. Okay, presidents have to get their cabinet. You need to know this. Their cabinet, their executive officials, and judges all approved by the Senate. So if I was going to appoint Lalit to be the head of the FBI, who has to approve? The Senate. If I wanted to appoint Kate as my chief of staff in my office, do I have to get it approved? No. Small office? No. Big government positions? Yes. Okay. Supreme Court justices, ambassadors, and what was it? Cabinet. Like one of my best friends, her dad was an ambassador for 5 different countries, and he had to be appointed by Congress 5 times to those countries, which is pretty cool. All right, War Powers Clause. So these are limitations on the president. The president. What did you have time to Google? Did you check out this thing? What does it say then?
Yeah, so if you commit second-degree murder, you don't have to pay a bail, so you get to walk free until the trial.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you get to. Hello. There's a difference between jail and prison. There's a difference between jail and prison. Jail is short term. You're awaiting trial. You sit in jail. You get too heavily intoxicated on your 22nd birthday. You sit in jail. You go to prison once you are found guilty of a crime. Yes? You see the difference?
Yeah, but you're walking free until the trial.
Sure. But like then you get to your trial, then you're good.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're found guilty.
If you're found guilty. Okay.
But you could go and kill someone else and still be free.
Man, you sound so helpful. Oh man, you killed one, now you can kill 2. Look at him. He's like big smile, so bright. He's like, man, what an opportunity. Indiana, is that on the map now for you?
Yep.
There you go, Indiana University. Here you go. We got a merit scholar coming. Illinois. Oh, well. Indiana's got really nothing going on. Here we go. War Powers Resolution. It limits a president's authority to 90 days. So a president can wage a war for 90 days without being checked. Then it has to get approval for Congress. So can a president do whatever the hell he wants? Or she? Let's be inclusive here. It's going to happen at some point, right?
It's all men.
Yes, it is all men, but that doesn't mean the future is only men.
I don't think.
When I
you're
become
right.
president,
Might
I
not
Thank you, Olivia. Oh, I'm just so proud you invite me to your celebration.
That'd be so sweet.
Anyway, just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it won't. We have to have hope. You can't be something until you can see something, okay? So we're working on it. Anyway, he or she cannot wage a war for an endless amount of time. They have 90 days, and then Congress has to approve it. Goodbye. Emily, you really detracted us.
It's interesting.
It
I
is
did that last
interesting.
night.
It is interesting.
I'm really confused.
Are they just trying that tight on money?
They're trying to do it in Chicago too. It's just like not.
That's
It's like the number one.
And murder capital.